Hello everyone, my name is Hisham. I'm the owner of Clemson Aeronautics, where we make the riveting and dimpling systems. This is the video number 4 for the elevator. I apologize, it's been a long time since I put out a video because we were just creating stock for our systems. Before I begin with the video, I would like just to announce that we have a really good sale, a bundle sale where you can buy the riveting and dimpling system with a 3 yokes and the rib dimpling option. It's a great sale. If you are planning to buy these items, please go to our website and try to find the bundle on there. It is a very good sale, and I suggest that you take advantage of this now. Now on page 9-9 in our manual, the top right corner, we gotten to the point where it says disassemble and deburr everything. It is not that simple. All the parts are assembled on both tables here, the left elevator here, the right elevator on the table that have the camera on is right behind the camera. So I decided that I am going to deburr, dimple, and prime the parts as I remove them from the elevator, bearing in mind that I read far ahead in the manual to be able to do the right thing. I don't want to dimple holes that does not need to be dimpled and so forth. I don't want to forget to put a seam, for instance, on the skins and so forth. So as I'm going, and I decided to do the top skins on both elevators first. I'm just gonna have that on Cleaveland, and I'm gonna do these. I'm gonna start by deburring them and scuffing them really good, and then marking them for the holes that is not going to be dimpled. Then dimple them and decrease them and prime them, and I will set it aside. Then I'll move on to the next part. And now I am going to use my soldering iron to cut the protective cover over the holes, the number 40 holes where we're going to be riveting, and I'm just going to peel the cover that's inside the elevator completely so I can prime it. Well, folks, I managed to do the other side and get the protective sticker from around the holes that I need for it to be removed. And I just want to remove now the protective coating from the inside part of the skin. And I am using the broomstick method here. And the main reason that I'm using the broomstick is because it protects the skin. The skin is very thin. While you're ripping that sticker off, you can actually bend the the skin. So if you're not going to use a broomstick, try to put your hand on the material and then pull this way against it so you don't bend the material, and move your hand when you peel some, you move your hand and so forth. But I'm gonna go ahead and use my broomstick and still hold it down this way. This way it ensures that it pulls steady in one direction with the entire width of the material. I managed to get it all off. All I do is just use a razor blade and cut it this way and it comes right off. A small note here, when you peel the inside of the skin, you can feel your hand if there is a burr. There is no burr on this side. So it seems like when they punched it, they punched it from this side, so the burr, a small one, is on the other side. So this side is the inside of the elevator. All I'm going to do to it is use my Scotch-Brite pad to scuff it in the area where the skins are, where the holes are, and that will be enough deburring from this side. As for the other side, I'm gonna go ahead and use my deburring tool to do that. One other small note, I noticed when I use a ruler or something with my soldering iron and go like this, it doesn't tear very well, and it doesn't heat it up, and I think the heat is escaping from the tip and it's cooling down from, you know, from the stick or from my yardstick or something, enough where it doesn't heat all the way through. And I noticed that if I just use it by hand without a ruler or a stick, it heats right through and it peels right off and tears it off when I'm tearing it up. This is obviously another day since the beginning of this tape, and bear with me a little bit. I'm trying to gather my thoughts because there is a lot of consideration I have to put while I'm working with this elevator right now, and I'm gonna start kind of speaking loudly in front of the camera so you and I can think together about something that I could have missed. And the whole point is all the stuff that you and I built in the past, the vertical stabilizer, the rudder, and the horizontal stabilizer, there is lessons in these parts that we have to learn from, so we can implement as we go throughout our build. The last part that I recorded with the videotape, it was the skins, the upper skins of the left and right elevator. Those are the ones that I was working on, and I deburred the holes in it, you know, and I mentioned before that the upper side on my sheets was the one that needed really deburring, and the inside of the sheet that goes inside the elevator was fairly smooth, and I'm just going to use a Scotch-Brite while I'm etching it a little bit to smooth these holes, and that's all that's needed as far as the holes are concerned. Now here is a few things that we have to consider and keep in mind as we go further into this. Now I need to etch the skin from the inside so I can prime it. But before I do so, etching is not a problem. I'm gonna etch especially over the holes and the edges that needs etching. But the first point that came to my mind is those things. Remember those things from the beginning of the chapter, the foam ribs that we cut and we set aside. If you would go to page 9-15, it tells you where those things is gonna be placed on the skin. And I have zero experience as far as the Pro Seal, the tank sealant you have to use with those things on the skin. But it is obvious that you have to etch the aluminum where those foam ribs is going to be, and you're gonna put Pro Seal, and that etching is gonna help the Pro Seal get a good grip on the aluminum, which is not a big issue because we're etching it. The other problem is priming it. I cannot prime the part that I etched to put the Pro Seal on. So as I am etching, I have to bear in mind those places that is mentioned that have those ribs at, and I do need to pinpoint exactly where those foam ribs is gonna go. It's easily done. You can measure it and draw a line on it, so you can know to etch that part really well. But when it comes to priming, you need to cover it up where the foam is going to be. You need to cover that part with a tape so no primer would get on it. What else? The trailing edge. The trailing edge, and if you recall from the rudder, I scuffed that pretty good. So when I use the tape that that we have, that double-sided tape, it would stick pretty good. And also the aluminum itself. And we'll take an example. This is the left side here, and this is the trailing edge. This needs to be scuffed pretty good so that tape, double-sided tape, would stick to it pretty good too. So here's two parts that we need to keep in mind when we are etching and priming. So priming, I cannot prime the part that have the foam ribs on or the trailing edge. I cannot prime those. So before I prime it, I need to make sure that those parts are taped very well and is covered really nice and don't have any primer on it. One little tip, of course I mentioned I deburred the edges on the outside of the skin, but there is a part that you kind of want to make sure that you deburr it nicely, and those, like this one is on the left skin. This part right here, this part here have a radius here and a radius here, and this little one also is kind of radiused. Of course everything is radiused because you don't want that to crack. And this will be folded like this, and this will be liable to crack if you don't deburr it and have it nice and smooth. And also, I gotta admit, I use my buffing wheel to do the edges. You might not want to do that. I kind of gambled because you have to be really careful when you're doing that, because you can really ruin the skin. You can get hurt and stuff because this stuff is very sharp. But in either case, that part right here, those parts on both skins, and of course on the other side will be the same thing, need to be done with a file. And what I did, I had some files from Harbor Freight that I had for a while here in the shop. Really neat little files. So I picked up a flat one, nice little bitty flat one, and one that was kind of round. You can see that. And I used those two to deburr this, and the round one especially in the corners here, and I took my time to really get it nice, just because the liability factor is pretty high, and you gotta discover that. Well, if you're here, you built the rudder and you saw how hard it was to bend this to make the two surfaces, the upper and lower surface, come together and rivet them and stuff. So deburr them really nice, the best you can. You can even take a Scotch-Brite later on to it too, and kind of do it, smooth it out as much as you can. It will help you in the future and the longevity of your airplane. One more thing you need to keep in mind. Now, I haven't dimpled anything yet, so breaking the edges, and please give me a moment to look at the page number 9-9, where it talks about breaking the edges on the trailing edge on the skins. And you have to keep in mind the forward part also need to break the edge on it. I'll start with the forward part of it. When you break the edge on the forward part using this tool, that terrific tool that I got from Cleveland Aircraft Tools, the lip that's going to be from the outside needs a nice heavy break on it, because it's already radius. So you need that radius in there. You're going to discover, like you've done in the rudder, that you need a nice good break to it. And the surface that's going to be from the inside, not so much of a break to it. If you have just a little break, it will work. But the one from the outside, you need more break to it. Now, the trailing edge. The trailing edge on the elevator is different than the rudder, simply because of the shape of this thing, and it actually goes outside, not meet together like the rudder does. do we need to break the edge on the trailing edge of the rudder skin? The book says yes. That's what you need to do. And I would say yes too, because it's going to make it really nice. I mean, this is the bigger part. That's going to be the aft part of it, and the skin is going to be going up like this to it. And if it goes, you know, after you rivet it, if it goes a little bit more like that, your elevator is going to look really bad. So you really need to break it in a little bit, so when you rivet it, the trailing edge will be nice and flat, and all the surfaces is touching, the skin is touching the this wedge, and so on. So now we know we have to break the skin on the trailing edge. The question is, when do you do it? The forward part you can do right after you scuff it, and before you prime it. It's not an issue. But the trailing edge, if you dimple, if you put a dimple in here and you try to run with this tool, you'll flatten out the dimple. So you have to be careful. And from what I see so far, I need to break that edge before I dimple the trailing edge. I might even, one second. Okay, folks. You know by now that you're gonna need one of those that have kind of the edge breaking out, because if you don't use one of those, it will get on the bent edge of the trailing edge there and it will ruin it. So this will be from the outside, and this will be from the inside. Now if you broke the edge and put this from the inside, it will come and the corner of it will touch the break that you just did. So although it's not like a disaster or anything, but I thought about it and I thought, okay, I am going to use also the reduced diameter dimpling die on the other side, the bottom side of the skin, or the inner side of the skin, should I say. So it will be a little bit far from the edge also. I think you might not understand what I just said, but when you're getting ready to dimple the trailing edge of your elevator and you already had put a break in it, consider using this on one side and this on the other side, and I think you will be okay. Sorry, I don't have any more explanation to that point except that. Well, folks, this is it for this video. Tomorrow I will start the actual etching or scuffing of the inside of my skins, and I will start filming again in sequence what I'm doing, so if you're keeping up with me, you can kind of follow along as you build your airplane. Thank you very much for watching, and if you like this video, please push the like button and share it with other folks that's building their airplane also. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.